You really can't make this stuff up, even if you tried. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bobcat Corner. This is episode number 55, and this is Stephen Vitt yet again reporting about some pretty much breaking news, if you want to call it that, about conference realignment related topics. And when it comes to the timing of this, it could not have been any better because just the last episode that I did, which was episode 54 of Bobcat Corner, you guys remember that graphic I made of a G number conference domino effect, G, G number conference realignment domino effect. You remember that. And you remember all the logos of the schools that were involved in that graphic. And that was because of what just happened with Texas State moving from the Sun Belt Conference to join the Pac 12, which has been confirmed, obviously. And now I want to turn your attention to a new report, rumor, whatever you want to call it at this point, of a new development concerning that graphic of episode number 54. And I want to segue that into a new graphic that I made for episode number 55. And that would be called This graphic would be called the Sun Belt Backup Plan, 2027 plus and beyond. And it's pretty self-explanatory what you're going to see here with this graphic. So before I get into the great details of this graphic, I want to talk about the article itself in question that was posted on July 9th. This was written by Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record, based out of Harrisonburg, Virginia, That's in the territory of James Madison University, which is right now a Sun Belt Conference school. Here's the title: Sun Belt leaders discuss more candidates to replace Texas State. I'm just going to read a little bit of this, but I'm obviously going to post a link to this article down below in the description box for you guys to read so you guys can follow along. Sun Belt Conference officials met again this week to discuss potential candidates to join the conference, with sources telling the Daily News Record that Ohio University is among the schools expressing some interest in the league. That right there jumps out at you. Texas State, the other Bobcats, they announced late last month that they would leave the Sun Belt for the Pac 12 in 2026, leaving the Sun Belt with 13 members. Initial discussions the day after Texas State's announcement focused largely on Conference USA members Louisiana Tech, which makes sense, and Western Kentucky, while the possibility of holding it at 13 for the near future was also discussed. Continuing on here. Those talks didn't generate a consensus among Sunbelt leadership, but other schools, including Ohio, have reached out to the Sunbelt to at least discuss membership. Boy, do I have a lot to say about this. Ohio University is the lone charter member of the Mid-American Conference, still in the MAC. The Bobcats, the Ohio Bobcats, helped create the MAC in 1946 with current members Miami of Ohio and Western Michigan joining the following year. Sources said the talks with Ohio were preliminary, with both sides simply gauging interests. But Ohio had begun at least entertaining the possibility of leaving its longtime home in the MAC for a few reasons. And I'm just going to get into this and then I'm going to stop reading. The reasons. The number of midweek football games in the MAC has resulted in decreased fan interest and ticket revenue. I can see the logic of that reason. Once considered one of the most stable and geographically compact FBS conferences, the MAC recently lost Northern Illinois to the Mountain West for football and the Horizon League for other sports. The additions of Buffalo and UMass have increased travel costs in a conference that was once made up entirely of teams from the Midwest. Lastly here, these initial talks may be more about establishing relationships for the future than a current move, considering the potential for a massive realignment across college sports before 2031. That's one thing to take note of, is that this may be just establishing relationships and nothing more. So that's also a possibility. And I also will link this other article written by hustlebelt.com, which adds this little comment here, commenting on Shane Metlin's article. Metlin's reporting suggests Ohio and perhaps other MAC members expressed concerns with the conference's broadcaster influenced decision to schedule weeknight games, leading to declining attendance at games, and that the conference's most recent full member additions, again, Buffalo and UMass, have or will resulted in increased travel costs. Now, we have to get to the graphic that I just made here for this episode, and these are just my thoughts, basically in a nutshell, and I'm going to come back to you guys soon in a video later on here, uh, telling you straight up how I feel about this. First of all, the reasons why Ohio should consider joining the Sun Belt. The max media rights deal with ESPN either won't be renewed in 2027 or it won't approve anyway. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Now, the MAC has a media rights deal with ESPN, and that is only going to last until 2027, the current one in place. There is a possibility, and I'm only saying it's a possibility, I'm not guaranteeing it, but there is a possibility that this media rights deal will not be renewed in 2027 with the way that membership is right now, the way the MAC is structured right now. And even if, I'm saying this as well, even if it does get renewed by ESPN, let's just say ESPN goes like, okay, we're going to renew it. Even if they do that, I don't believe that the new and improved renewed deal that the MAC would get is going to improve in any way, because it was such a key thing for us to see Northern Illinois leave the MAC for the Mountain West Conference. Northern Illinois, whatever you may say about them, Northern Illinois was a key part in keeping the MAC together as far as value goes. They were the only school based in the central time zone. And this is a key point that is always brought up to me by other college football fans like Bill, that college football guy. Shout out to you, Bill, that college football guy, for keep reminding me about this. Is that you need some school out there in the central time zone to increase the value of your media rights deal. Otherwise, it's going to go down. The MAC is only in one time zone right now, geographically speaking, and that's not a good thing. Anyway, number two, second reason. Midweek MACtion games are an economic flop. Now, I haven't had the time to specifically go through every single detail about the economics of this, what's going on here with MACtion games, ticket sales, and TV viewership and all that. But by all intents and purposes, guys, um, it's clearly obvious to me that midweek MACtion games have been a failure by all intents and purposes. And I mean specifically when it comes to the economics. It just hasn't been the economic driver that MAC leadership initially thought it would be. And I'm hoping eventually they're going to realize that they can't keep doing this. They can't keep doing Tuesday, Wednesday night games on ESPN Plus and expect everyone to just jump on board. I mean, the novelty of it, I get it. I get the novelty of it. Midweek action, catchy, all that. But is it making you any more money? Is it really moving the needle, so to speak? Is it really getting you closer to where you want to go from an economic standpoint? And I believe the answer is a resounding no at this point. So MAC leadership has got to reevaluate MACtion for what it is, and I don't think they should continue doing it. Definitely not past 2027. They need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to what their definition of MACtion is. And I don't think it has anything to do with playing on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. That's just my opinion. Number three, the Sun Belt Conference, SBC, Sun Belt Conference has more stability than the MAC and more of a vision for what it wants to do. I think when you compare these two conferences straight up, just these two, forget about every other conference, just the Sun Belt and the MAC, just look at those two conferences. I think it's obvious that the Sun Belt is much more stable between the two and that they do have more of a vision for what they want to do. Um, Not everything the Sun Belt has done has been, all that great. It's not been perfect, obviously, but compared to the MAC, when it comes to business decisions, when it comes to moves, when it comes to positioning themselves to make more money, the Sun Belt has more of a grasp and an understanding of what's going on. And I think that's very key, guys. So I'm not saying the Sun Belt is the best G number conference out there, but compared to the MAC, it's definitely better. I have to admit it, it's definitely better. And number four, it goes without saying. Do I need to say it, guys? Money. Um, a lot of the moves that you've seen in conference realignment over so many years now, a big central focus of all these moves has been money. These schools and universities, they want to make money. They want to find ways to keep making money to obtain their structure, to keep everything going. And that's just it. You know, if schools are not making money, they're obviously losing it. And they may get to a point where they're going to have to cut programs, cut athletic programs for various sports. And you're already seeing it across the board, across every level and division in college sports. You're seeing it. And really, what I'm going to get into, what I'm going to segue into, guys, when I show myself on camera, is that my message to MAC leadership, Stephen Bitt to MAC leadership, is this: if you're not trying to improve your conference, you're trying to collapse it, whether you know it or not. And with that, we're going to segue into the in person chat here. So give me a minute. And we're back. So, showing my face now for this part of the episode. There are just a few things more that I want to talk about concerning these, potential reports of Ohio reaching out to the Sun Belt Conference in inquiring about membership there. So, first off, before I get into this, do I believe that these reports are valid? Do I believe that there's something to this? I do believe, in one sense, there is. There is something valid to it. How valid it is, I don't know yet, because this is just something that's been reported fresh, out of the newspaper. So we don't quite have a definitive answer to this yet. We'll have to see how this plays out, because once upon a time this was the same case for Northern Illinois, those rumors of them going to the Mountain West Conference. But guess what? Those rumors never went away. Northern Illinois eventually did make that jump to the Mountain West Conference as a football only member. So you have to keep that in mind. Keep that in the back of your mind. So with this, right now it's just initial rumor stage kind of thing where it's like, yeah, there's reports now that Ohio reached out to the Sun Belt Conference, but we don't quite know for an absolute fact yet. So I'm not going to go there yet. But let me just take out the time here to, following off the graphic that I showed you guys earlier in this episode, I want to take this time to send a message to the entire staff and, of course, the commissioner himself of the Mid American Conference, Dr. John Steinbrecher. And for the record, what I'm about to say here, this is just like strictly business. Okay, this is nothing personal. I believe John Steinbrecher, he's a good guy, fun to hang out with. That's what I believe. And, so nothing like that. But I'm just saying strictly business. This is what I have to say concerning what's going on here with MAC leadership, because for the longest time now, ever since these rumors of Northern Illinois going to Mountain West Conference, ever since that got started, I've been really starting to question MAC leadership and what's going on with them. So let me just get started here with this message. Number one,
Mac leadership, you needed to start doing right by all your members. Okay, it goes without saying that. It goes without saying that you got to start making moves. You have to have a grasp and a real understanding of what's going on in college sports, in college football, with conference realignment and all that. You have to have an understanding of it. You really have to get a true understanding about what's going on around you. And you can't assume that it's not going to affect your conference in any way, because right now it already is. Northern Illinois is already gone. Starting next year, they're gone. So yes, we've done well as a conference by adding UMass. I think that was a good move, adding UMass, and UMass had to go somewhere, so they decided to go to the MAC. Okay, good. But now what? Going forward into the future, a few years from now what? And this is a question that I'm hoping gets answered soon by MAC leadership, by Commissioner Steinbrecher and all the staff there. Because when I mean making moves, what I mean by that is not necessarily, oh, we got to add like 6, 7 schools or what have you. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that whichever schools that you do end up adding to your conference, they got to make sense and they got to add actual value to your conference when it comes to media rights, when it comes to making money, all that stuff, business oriented things. So, what I was alluding to way back when, I think it was episode number 35. I think it was episode 35. I forget, but it was like a while ago when I posted that the Mid American Conference should be looking northeast for expansion, for future expansion, schools, particularly with the FCS. And I've mentioned it a few times already, so I'm not going to reiterate that. But in these next coming years, guys, personally for me, in my opinion, I need to start seeing certain moves being made. I need to start seeing headlines in publications that say the Mid American Conference is in talks with insert FCS school in Northeast here. That could be Albany Great Danes. That could be New Hampshire Wildcats. That could be Stony Brook. You know, St- I've heard a lot of good things about Stony Brook. Certain schools like that. If we get to like 2027, 2028, and we're still not hearing even headlines of that where they're in talks, then you have to be skeptical of what's going on with the MAC, with leadership. And I don't take joy in saying this, but this is just something that's on my mind. It's been on my mind for a while, and it's something that needs to get addressed internally within MAC leadership, because there's nothing that you or I can do as college football fans to do anything here. We don't have that power. It's up to MAC leadership. It's up to all the school presidents of the MAC members and Commissioner Steinbrecher. It's up to all of them to truly get together and come to a great understanding of, okay, this is what we want to do. This is where we're going to go. This is how we're going to expand. This is where we're going to expand. These are the schools we're going to target. This is what we're going to do. All that. It takes thorough planning. So I have to be honest when I'm saying that. You need to do right by your members in the MAC. And it goes without saying, you have certain members right now in Kent State and Akron, they're not doing well. They're acting like dumpster fires right now. And I don't take joy in saying that either, but it's the truth. Those two schools in particular need to get their act in gear. So, number two, understand. You also need to understand, MAC leadership, that we're now in an ever changing landscape with conference realignment. We've been doing this for years now, and you need to get a grasp of what's going on. Every other conference in the G number level, group of 6 conferences, every other conference has made significant moves up to this point. And aside from when we added UMass, the MAC, we have not done anything. Let's be honest, guys. We have not done much of anything. We've just sat around and waited patiently for what exactly? I don't know. But at some point, that's got to stop. If we're going to be proactive, if we're going to make a move to better our conference, we can't just keep sitting around. We got to start making moves. And this is like a basic term I'm going to use here in the business sense: adapt or die. In the business world, you hear that term all the time. Either you adapt as a business or you die as a business. And I'm hoping the Mac chooses the former: adapt. This is the time to adapt. What hasn't been working for a while has to be scrapped at some point, and I mean Maction, what I'm going to get into in a minute. You got to do it. You have to do it, guys. You just have to dig deep and truly get a true vision for what your conference should be. So, and what I mean by that is like, look around you, look at all the other conferences, power conferences, G number level conferences. Greg Sankey, as much as I don't like that guy, the commissioner of the SEC, as much as I don't like Greg Sankey, and I don't, one thing that I do have something positive to say about him is that he knows how to fight for the SEC. He knows how to fight for the Southeastern Conference. He does that extremely well. That's one positive thing I'll say about him. He does that with flying colors. Greg Sankey has an understanding of that. Gloria Navarez, Mountain West Commissioner, she has a great understanding of that. Tim Pernetti, American Athletic Conference Commissioner, he has a good understanding of that. And even Keith Gill, who is the Sun Belt Conference Commissioner, he has a good understanding of that. I have to believe that. And that's the commissioner of the conference that Ohio is supposedly talking to. So who are you going to trust, Keith Gill or Dr. John Steinbrecher right now? Up for debate. So, it's a collective effort. It's not just commissioners. It's all these higher ups in universities. They all get together. They all come to an understanding about, okay, membership, structure, payments, all that. It's a collective effort. So, and lastly here, Mac leadership, you need to start thinking outside the box. This is something I've been hinting at for many episodes now. You guys can go back through the 30s and 40s and episodes whenever I've talked about the Mac. You need to start thinking outside the box. And what I mean by that is the fact that you keep hanging on to a media outlet like ESPN. I've had a lot to say about ESPN in my time here. I don't like ESPN. I don't trust ESPN. That's just my opinion, and I could be wrong about it. But right now, I don't trust ESPN. I don't think they should have this much power in dictating terms about what's going on with all these conferences. I don't like the fact that the MAC is associated with ESPN, period. End of discussion. So, with that said, it's like, okay, what's the alternative? Well, start thinking outside the box. Why can't you find another media partner, a sports media partner out there? Why can't you find another media partner to basically hook up with and just get a media rights deal done? Don't feel like you can just be dependent upon ESPN's approval to get to where you want to go. I mean, you could do that, but don't just think that's your only option. That's what I'm trying to get at. So ESPN Plus, sometimes you show up on ESPN, the main network, but most of the time you show up on ESPN Plus. That's not going to work long term, guys. Mac leadership, I'm talking to you right now. All of you Mac staff guys, this is not going to work. ESPN Plus is not going to work long term, and you have to realize that. From a business standpoint, no, it's not going to work long term. You need to find ways to increase the value of your conference, not just with expansion, with wherever you go with expansion, but you have to find other ways to branch out, and that means finding a new media partner. That means finding a new creative way to market your brand, to market the brand of the Mid American Conference. Maction, okay, that's a good starting point, but that should not be the only thing you're banking on, so to speak. You got to find a way. So, so yeah. So we'll just have to see how that's going to go, and yeah, just going to have to cut it right there. So right now it's up in the air. We'll just see how it goes. So yeah, this is Stephen Vitt reporting. Um, I'll just have more to report about this as we go along. Take care. Bye.